Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte. So today we are continuing our season preview videos, looking at the Western Conference champions of 2024, the Edmonton Oilers. So the Oilers put up a good fight against the Florida Panthers in the Stanley Cup final, and I know that Oilers fans want to forget about that, but I think that's really something that they can build off of this season, and I think the Oilers proved to a lot of people what I like to talk about a lot on this channel, especially in these preview and predictions videos. Just because a team hasn't done something doesn't mean that they won't do it in the future. For the longest time, the Washington Capitals could never get past the Penguins. They could never get past the Rangers until they did, and then they won a Stanley Cup. The St. Louis Blues could never get past teams like Chicago, and then they did, and then they won a Stanley Cup. The Vegas Golden Knights, the first couple years in existence, it looked like they were a throw-in to win the Stanley Cup. They could never find a way to get it until they did. You get what I'm saying here. You're always the team that can never get it done until you get it done. And for the Oilers, they proved that, yeah, you know what, this is a team that maybe wasn't built for the playoffs the last couple years. But then they were. They got the right combination of good defense, good goaltending, and Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl doing what they do best. And they found themselves in the Stanley Cup Finals, two wins away from winning the Stanley Cup. So the way I kind of look at this whole situation for the Oilers is this team looks fairly similar to what it did last year. And I think they actually made marketable improvements, if anything. So you've got Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Connor McDavid, Zach Hyman as your top line. Jeff Skinner, Draisaitl, and Arvidsson. I think that top six is solid. Hyman played really well last year. I expect that to continue. I expect a breakout season from guys like Skinner and Arvidsson. I think those were very low-key, great additions. And now Draisaitl hopefully can center his own line and actually make this 1-2 punch, kind of like what we've seen from Crosby and Malkin during the peak of their time in Pittsburgh. When those two were playing together, you know shit was hitting the fan, because that means they were looking for the most out of that one line because they weren't getting enough production from anything else. So they forced those two to play together. And when the Oilers do that, things are not going well. And unfortunately, it hurts the balance of their lineup. The matchups are easier to match up against when you have them playing together. So I think this is huge. If they can really make a legit second line that sticks and is competent and works, that is going to be a major threat for the Oilers and could be the most significant difference between this year's team and last year's team for the better. Bottom six, pretty much the same. Vasily Podkolzin, I wasn't expecting him to be on the Oilers side of things here, but here we are. Derek Ryan, Corey Perry, Connor Brown, Adam Henrique, and Matthias Janmark. That's a solid bottom six. And if there's any way that Vasily Podkolzin, who was a former top 10 pick of the Vancouver Canucks, if he turns in to a top six winger, it doesn't look likely, but if he does, goddamn, that could be a real threat alongside Draisaitl on that second line. So we'll see what happens if they maybe try and put him up there. But Vasily Podkolzin's a name to watch for there in the top six. Defense is pretty much the same, and this could be a good thing or a bad thing. So you've got Matthias Ekholm and Evan Bouchard, Darnell Nurse, Ty Emberson, Brett Kulak, and Troy Stetcher. So again, we're seeing a lot of the former Calgary Flames and Vancouver Canucks in this lineup, which is interesting. Ty Emberson is a good prospect. He was a guy that, if I'm not mistaken, he was a New York Rangers prospect for the last couple of years. He's been playing with the Hartford Wolfpack. So he comes in. He was projected to be a top four blue liner on the Rangers. They just didn't have room for him. So he comes into Edmonton. I think he's going to be a good addition to this team on the blue line. That might be, again, alongside, you've got Vasily Podkolzin up front and Ty Emberson on the blue line. These could end up being really low-key X factors for the Edmonton Oilers this season. Goaltending, we're not going to see nothing. There's not really going to be anything crazy here. You've got Stuart Skinner and Calvin Pickard. I think that's serviceable, but again, when everybody said that Stuart Skinner, including myself last season, I took a lot of heat in a video for that. I said that the Oilers, because Stuart Skinner hasn't been good, I don't think this is it. Well, you guys flamed me in the comments, and they ended up going to the Western. They ended up winning the Western Conference. So it's a perfect example of a goaltender that struggled And basically, the Oilers were like, get rid of this guy. And next thing you know, he's leading this team to the Stanley Cup final. Now, I ultimately think he was part of the downfall for the Oilers, but he has proven that he can go on a playoff run. It is possible. And for the Oilers this season, the key for them is just keep things in check, especially after having kind of a shorter offseason compared to the rest of the league. For the Panthers, they at least got the championship and won the Stanley Cup. The Oilers played a lot of hockey and a lot of mileage to not win the Stanley Cup. So I wouldn't be surprised if this team comes out of the gate a little bit slow, a little bit sluggish. They had a slow, a short offseason. But I think when it's all said and done, this Oilers team should absolutely be making the playoffs. And if they don't make the playoffs, something really bad happened in Edmonton. And I just don't see that happening. I still see the Oilers and the Canucks as the top teams in this division by a pretty big margin. The Edmonton Oilers, I have them making the playoffs, and I have them making the playoffs with 111 points. I think the Oilers, it's them and Vancouver. Who is going to win that division? That's a great question, but it's going to be one of those two. I think the gap, we're going to see Vegas and LA slip up a little bit and fall down the charts a little bit. I think we're going to see some of the bottom feeders in this division pick things up a little bit. I expect a little more from Seattle, Anaheim, San Jose. I expect all three of those teams to have more points than they did last year, if not the same amount. So when I look at Edmonton, they should be able to feast on this division, and maybe some of those things that they don't do so well with early in the season, they're able to make up for because of the division they're in, and they're able to quickly make back ground or kind of hold steady early in the season, and then they find their rhythm, they find their flow. And like I said, you need some of these guys to hit. You need some guys like, what's his name? You need guys like Ty Emberson to hit. You need Troy Stetcher to hold down that third pair. Podkolzin to come in and play well. I expect Arvidsson to be a good fit there. I'm not really worried about that. And Jeff Skinner. Hopefully Jeff Skinner can play like he did last year because, yeah, his contract was terrible in Buffalo, and the PR for him was horrible. But that's gone now. That's in the past. And now it's about, can he just play hockey? Can he just play the freaking game? And playing alongside Draisaitl, it doesn't get much better than that. You're not going to get much more opportunity than that. And I think Arvidsson is a serviceable second-line player as well. This is a great opportunity for Jeff Skinner to continue to re-energize his game to what we expect him to be. So, with that all said, I'd love to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of the Edmonton Oilers? Because I think the Oilers should be a playoff team this year, and I'm not really even concerned even saying that. This should be a team that absolutely makes the playoffs. They should take advantage of probably the weakest division in hockey this coming season. This is it for the Oilers. Their window is open. They just locked up Draisaitl to the massive contract, so there's no headaches about that. McDavid's here. Now it's Evander Kane. That's the only real concern for this team going into this season, the only real distraction. I think they're going to be okay, but I'd love to know what you guys think. Thank you so much for watching today, and I'll see you again in the next one.